Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 17. Text 12. Aho kashtam aho anyayam yadyuyam dharmanandanaha jivitum narhat klishtam Vipradharmachyutashrayah. Aho kashtam aho anyayam yadyuyam dharmanandana jivitum narhat klishtam Vipradharmachyutashrayah. Aho kashtam aho anyayam yadyuyam dharmanandanaha jivitum narhat klishtam Vipradharmachyutashrayah. Jivitum narhat klishtam Pradharmachyutashrayah. Kashtamaho nyayam Jivitum narhat klishtam Vaishnav. Dharmanandana Vitum narata klishtam Pradharmachyutashrayah. Aho, oh, kashtam, what terrible sufferings. Aho, oh, anyayam, what terrible injustice. Yat, because. Yuyam, all of you good souls. Dharmanandanaha, sons of religion personified. Jivitum, to remain alive. Na, never. Arhatha, deserve. Klishtam, suffering. Vipra, brahmanas. Dharma, piety. Achyuta, God. Ashraya, being protected by. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Bhishma Dev said, "Oh, what terrible sufferings and what terrible injustices you good souls suffer for being the sons of religion personified. You did not deserve to remain alive under those tribulations, yet you are protected by the Brahmanas, God and religion." Maharaj Yudhishthir was disturbed due to the great massacre in the battle of Kurukshetra. Bhishma Dev could understand this, and therefore he spoke first of the terrible sufferings of Maharaj Yudhishthir. He was put into difficulty by injustice only, and the battle of Kurukshetra was fought just to counteract this injustice. Therefore, he should not regret the great massacre. He wanted to point out particularly that they were always protected by the Brahmanas, the law, and religious principles. As long as they were protected by these three important items, there was no cause for disappointment. Thus, Bhishma Dev encouraged Maharaj Yudhishthir to dissipate his despondency. As long as a person is fully in cooperation with the wishes of the Lord, guided by the bona fide Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and strictly following religious principles, one has no cause for despondency, however trying the circumstances of life. Bhishma Dev, as one of the authorities in the line, wanted to impress this point upon the Pandavas. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. My dear Lord, please help me to make sense, help us all to make sense of how you act through the complexities of this world, drawing us closer to you. Hare Krishna. I'm grateful to be here with all of you today morning, and today we are discussing from the Srimad Bhagavatam in a section that very much foreshadows the bigger story of the Bhagavatam. That the bigger story of the Bhagavatam is Parikshit Maharaj departing from the world and he finding shelter in the Bhagavatam. So that same bigger story is symbolized in the departure of Bhishma Pitama. So when Bhishma is departing, at that time Krishna is present in a manifest form, directly visible form. So just as the Lord was present for Bhishma, similarly he will be present for Parikshit also. And the way in which the Lord is present is different, but the principle is the same. That in the bigger narrative of the Bhagavatam, starting from the 2nd canto till the 12th canto, because Parikshit Maharaj actually, the conversation starts in the 2nd canto. At the end of the 1st canto, Shukadeva Goswami appears and Parikshit Maharaj asks some questions. Shukadeva Goswami actually starts speaking from the 2nd canto. So we could say this whole Bhagavatam is like Parikshit Maharaj is on an arrow bed, just like Bhishma was on the arrow bed. And with Parikshit Maharaj, Shukadeva Goswami speaking the Bhagavatam. Shukadeva Goswami speaking Bhagavatam. So that is like Krishna standing next to him. That is Krishna with him. So why is that compared to the arrow bed? Because that's also painful. The arrow bed was not just the physical pain of the arrow, but the constant reminder that death is going to come soon. So in some ways, Bhishma Pitama stayed much longer on the arrow bed. and Krishna was not with him in a manifest form throughout. He was of course remembering Krishna throughout. But, so what is going to happen in the second canto, that is being described or depicted here in 1.9. That there is Bhishma and then there is Krishna. Now of course there is a slight difference. It is Krishna is present directly and Krishna will himself hear Bhishma speaking. Speaking to Yudhishthir. Now in the case of Parikshit Maharaj, he is hearing about Krishna from Shukdev Goswami. But the point is that both are symbolizing Shabda at Antakal. Shabda is Shabda Brahma. Shabda Brahma is Krishna manifesting through divine sound at Antakal, at the last moment. So both are taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. So whether it is through we speak or we hear, the point is to take shelter of the Lord. And the broader context of life is that both of them are suffering. Are suffering. Now we could say, if we compare Parikshit Maharaj's situation, that we could say he made a mistake. The mistake was that he misunderstood the sage Shamik Rishi, and he thought that he's deliberately neglecting and disrespecting me, so he put a snake garland around him. That was a mistake. But the result of that mistake was disproportionate. A small dishonor and he's cursed to die. So it is again what we could say, it's so unfair. Because he was so devoted, he was so virtuous, he was so devoted, he had fought off Kali, protected the kingdom. Now, Parikshit Maharaj was so dedicated not just to Krishna but also to his practical service to Krishna that when he heard Kali is there somewhere, he himself went on his chariot searching to find traces of Kali and stop it. It's like normally in some countries you're very crime ridden. Now, if there's a crime, you go to the police and you report to the police, and the police still don't do anything. In fact, in some parts of in some cities, especially in Chicago, is considered to be not the whole of Chicago. Some part is so crime ridden that if you go there and you are robbed, and you report to the police say, "Why did you go there? Even we don't go there." This is not to demonize Chicago, but like the different localities are very different. So sometimes the police, even if you go and complain, they don't do anything. But some cities where there is really good security, not only the police act on complaints that you make after you go over there, the police are constantly sending out patrol squads. And they are proactively seeing where there is danger, where there is crime being committed, and immediately they are there. So Parikshit Maharaj going out to search for Kali's influences is like a proactive leader. So he was very, very responsible and he was doing great service for Krishna. And yet for such a small mistake, he was being punished and he had to die. So now if you consider the situation of Bhishma also. The Bhishma had been a very principled person throughout his life. If we consider the goodness in his life, he had lived a life of celibacy, and not to be celibacy itself is difficult, but generally celibates will live in forests or in places where there is not much temptation of the world. But Bhishma was living in royalty, where there was all kinds of prosperity and opulence and enjoyment around him. Bhishma being a celibate in Hastinapur is like somebody being a brahmachari in Swarga. Swarga is the opposite purpose, and to be a celibate over there is almost impossible. So what he had done, Bhishma, if you want to look at the positives of Bhishma, so his celibacy itself is a great positive. Then celibacy was his dedication, his dutifulness to his father. That it was not just dutiful, it was beyond dutiful. He sacrificed for his father's sake, because he was already appointed to be the king. Say in the case of Lord Ram, Kaikeyi took away the kingdom from him, and Lord Ram gracefully accepted that. But in the case of Bhishma, for his father's sake, and not even for his father's word of honor, just for his father's pleasure, he voluntarily gave up the kingdom. So he agreed, not only will I never become the king, I will never have any children. And then on top of that, see, it's one thing to give up some position when we are giving the position to someone who is better than us. Say if we are to give a class and some other senior devotee comes, we will say, oh yeah, please, you can give the class. But if somebody is actually not as good as us, and then we give up the position for them, then there is certain amount of resentment over there. Why? And on top of that, imagine that if we are supposed to give a class, we are prepared for the class, and then suddenly last moment somebody else is giving the class, and that person says, can you give me your notes so that I'll give the class? And so we have to help them prepare for their class. So Bhishma was like that. He was actually doing all the royal duties. So it was remarkably selfless. And yet, after doing all this, now he was on an arrow bed. Now an arrow bed is actually the opposite of what we would consider required for a bed. In a bed, even if there is a small lump somewhere, it's uncomfortable. If there's a nail on the bed, we can't sleep at all. But if the bed is only made of nails, how will we sleep? So he's in immense pain. And among everybody who died in the Kurukshetra war, nobody was subjected to as much pain as Bhishma. Drona was killed in the moment, Karna was killed in the moment, even Abhimanyu was killed in one moment. Even the Pandava's sons and others who were on the side of virtue, they were killed by Ashwathama while they were sleeping. So Bhishma was awake and in pain for a very long time. And was there a mistake on his side? Well, yes, his mistake was, if we want to call it a mistake, his mistake was that he was stuck to his word. I have taken a vow and I will stick to my vow. Now, was that a mistake? Well, yes, he fought against Krishna, and that could be considered to be a mistake. Again, from a devotional perspective, it's a part of the Leela of the Lord, but from an ethical perspective, now even when he stuck to his word, his hope was that Duryodhana will somehow or the other see sense. But it just never happened. So now the same principle of, okay, a small mistake. If there's a mistake, it's a small mistake. But the amount of pain that he has to suffer is far, far greater. Now, Yudhishthir is also in a similar situation. Yudhishthir is right now in a situation where he feels as if I should not fight. Why should I not fight? Because, sorry, not I should not fight, I should not become the king. Why? He feels that because of me this war happened. Because of me so much bloodshed happened. Because of me, see, for Yudhishthira Maharaj, he is overcome by guilt. And he feels, actually there are 4 reasons for his guilt, broadly speaking. See, first is there is so much death. So much death that has happened. And then not only has so much death happened in general, the bloodshed and all that has happened, it is almost all his sons have been killed. What did we fight for at all? Arjuna's son Abhimanyu was killed. Bhima's son Ghatotkacha was killed. All the 5 Pandavas, 5 sons were killed. So, we work hard. We work hard so that the future generation can have a better life. So, the idea is that if the future generation itself is not there, what is the point of fighting at all? What is the point of doing anything? And he felt for the sake of my gaining a kingdom, everybody was killed. And then, as if that was not bad enough, he came to know about Karna's identity. That when the last rites were being performed, there was a brother of Duryodhan, Yudsu, who performed the last rites for the Kauravas. But everybody from Karna's family was dead. So Karna had some sons, Karna had some brothers, all of them were dead. And Kunti just could not tolerate that. There was no one to perform the last rites for Karna. And at that time Kunti told that he was my first son. And Yudhishthir was completely shattered by that. Again, why? Because among all the Kauravas, he feared Karna the most. And he said that Karna had an opportunity to kill me on the 17th day of the war. But he did not kill me because he knew I was his brother, because he knew that he had given her word to his mother. And he felt that he did not kill me when he had the opportunity, but I celebrated when he was killed. He says, what kind of person am I? And then the last thing that broke him was what he felt was Kunti's betrayal. He was angry with Kunti that she didn't tell him this. But more than that, see, when we are in a particular frame of mind, we interpret all events in a particular way. See, if we are angry with others, then a small mistake by others makes us especially even more angry with them. But for him, what he felt was that Kunti did not tell this to me means that she didn't trust me. And if my own mother doesn't consider me trustworthy, then how can I be trustworthy enough to take care of a whole kingdom? So he just felt completely crushed. And he felt, I cannot take up this kingdom. He was crushed, he was drowning in guilt at that time. So now, if you consider among these incidents, for none of them, Yudhishthir himself was responsible. Yudhishthir tried his very best to avoid the war. That's how Krishna went with the peace proposal of just 5 villages. Yudhishthir was not the cause of any of this death. It was Duryodhan who was the cause. Now, was there some mistake of Yudhishthir? We could say, yes, he gambled. That was a mistake. But as compared to that, again, the extent of suffering that has come upon him. Okay, I gambled, and for that, I lived 13 years in prison. I lived 1 year in incognito exile, which was actually very humiliating for them. Because they had to hide their identities and act like menial servants over there. So they did that. So how long will it go on? So the point is that when we face life, especially when we are trying to practice bhakti and trying to serve Krishna, then pain is one of the most difficult emotions to process. In general, it's difficult to deal with pain. That nobody likes pain in general. But especially when we are practicing bhakti, at that time, we feel that because I'm practicing bhakti, it's not that I want great pleasure in life, but at least from the pains of life I should be protected. And we can say that's a reasonable expectation. But what happens? We see the great characters. They also suffer enormously. So, this is the context in which Bhishma is speaking to Yudhishthira. So, what is he saying? The context, he's almost flipping the narrative around. See, now when Yudhishthira is going to see Bhishma, he's thinking, this is my grandfather, and because of me, he's lying on an arrow bed. Say, suppose we have to go to see somebody in the hospital, and they had an accident, and they got into an accident because of our mistake. Maybe they were driving our car and we had not fixed the brakes of the car, and they got into accident. Then we will feel even more guilty, isn't it? So Yudhishthira being taken by Krishna to meet Bhishma, that could have increased Yudhishthira's guilt. And Bhishma anticipates that. So normally when we go to see somebody in the hospital who is very sick and near death, our question is, how are you? Oh, you must be in great pain. But Bhishma completely flips the narrative and he says, oh, how much pain you have suffered. So rather than saying, oh, I am in so much pain, he says, how much pain you have suffered. And his whole narrative that goes on is that you did not deserve to suffer such pain. He gives various reasons that he says that the theme of unfairness, that this pain was unfair, this pain was undeserved. He talks about it from two distinct perspectives. From the moral perspective and from the material perspective. Moral perspective means that you are virtuous person. Here it is said, Vipra dharma achyutashrayaha. You were always a good person. And not only good, next verse he'll talk about, you're also a strong person. You had strong people on your side. He said that, in the next verses he will say that how you had, he says, Yatra dharma suto raja gadapani rukodara krishno astri gandivam chapam surut krishna stato vipad. He said, you are dharma suto raja. And then you had Bhima, who was extremely powerful, gadapani rukodara. And then Krishna here refers to Arjuna, astri gandivam chapam. He had the gandiva. And yet, and on top of that, Krishna was also there. But still, tato vipad, in spite of that, distress came upon you. So, both from a moral perspective, you are a virtuous person, and from a material perspective, you are a strong person. So, you did not deserve this. This should not be happening to you. So, what does he want to convey through this? See, to understand what is going on over here and what is the, now we could go verse by verse and try to exactly understand what Bhishma is saying, but that will require several sessions. So to understand Krishna's plan, one of the biggest, most difficult, what makes it most difficult to understand Krishna's plan is the problem of pain. That when there is pain, when there is suffering, when there is distress, does Krishna have a plan? Does Krishna even exist? That kind of questions can naturally come for all of us. So here I would focus on one key point, that understanding the difference between cause and purpose. Cause refers to Karna. It refers to from where something comes. If we are here in life, what is the cause of pain? That means from where has pain come? And purpose refers to where the pain is meant to take us. So, purpose is uddesh. Cause is karan. Sometimes we may equate the two, but they are not the same. The cause and the purpose. That from where has the pain come and what is the pain meant for? So understanding this difference is critical. That now in the future verses Bhishma will say that actually nobody can understand the plan of the Lord. Nobody can, even the great sages, when they try to understand the plan of the Lord, Nayasya karichid rajan puman veda vidhitsitam yad vigyasaya yukta muhyanti kavayopihi. That muhyanto kavayopihi. Even the wise are bewildered. This is echoing what was said in the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That atra muhyanti surayaha. That even the gods are bewildered about the position and the purpose of the Lord. Yad vigyasaya yukta. Vigyasaya is we try to understand. Vigyasaya, we inquire. But even after inquiring, puman veda vidhitsitam. What is the Lord trying to do? It is very, very difficult to understand this. So, exactly where pain comes from, that is very difficult to figure out. Let's look at one more verse. This comes in the conversation between Bali and between Parikshit Maharaj and the bull. So Parikshit Maharaj is asking the bull, what is the cause of your suffering? And 1:17-18, let's recite this verse. He replies, so Parikshit Maharaj asks the bull, the bull is Dharma personified and the cow is Bhumi personified, and they are both being tormented by Kali. And Parikshit Maharaj has stopped Kali now, but then he is turning to the bull and asking him, what is the cause of your suffering? And he replies over here, Navayam klesha bijani yatasyo purusharshabha purusham tam vijanimo vakya bheda vimohitaha. Navayam klesha bijani. Klesha is distress. Bijani is the root of distress. Yatasyo purusharshabha. O king, you are the greatest among people. Yatasyo, but Navayam, we do not know. Purusham tam vijanimo. Vijanimo, when we try to know, yad vigyasaya yukta. The word had come, vigyasaya, similar. Vijanimo. So, different philosophers different people have inquired about it. And vakya bheda vimohitaha. That different people have come up with different opinions, and with all those opinions, vimohitaha. He says, we are bewildered. That the cause of suffering is very, very difficult to determine. Specifically, why something happens in someone's life. It's not easy to know. Sometimes, we may say all suffering comes because of our own karma. And yes, there is truth to that. But at the same time, we have to be careful that truth does not become a weapon in our hands. What do I mean by weapon? That to beat people down. See, I have not seen anywhere in scripture where somebody is suffering and other people tell them you are suffering because of your own karma. Now when Sita is abducted or Draupadi is disrobed, nobody tells them, you must have done something in the past because of which this happened to you. When the citizens come to Maharaj Pruthu and they tell him, we are starving, there's a famine and there is a drought over here. We don't have anything at all. We don't have any food to eat. Pruthu Maharaj doesn't say, it must have been your own past karma. Shut up and tolerate it. No. See why? Because our focus in suffering should not be others or even our own karma in terms of past karma. Our focus needs to be our dharma. Our focus should be our dharma. What is it that I am supposed to do in this situation? If in America this especially happens, I was in Seattle and there's one devotee who works in emergency duty over there. So he said there in some of the more liberal states, there's very free access to drugs. So what happens? People take drugs and sometimes they take an overdose of drugs. So they get OD'd. That is the word. And they come with a drug overdose. They've taken drugs many times and their system is already very weak. And they take drugs again. And then the doctors may warn them, don't take drugs, you will die now. Your body cannot tolerate this. So when somebody comes on taking drugs, can the doctor say, you are suffering because of your own actions, suffer and die now? No, the doctor's focus should not be what is your karma. The doctor's focus should be what is my dharma. That you are a patient, I am a doctor, and I am meant to treat you now. Now, as a part of doing our dharma of helping the patients, if we are doctors, then we may also warn them about not taking drugs. But the focus has to be our dharma. So that's why I talk about the difference between cause and purpose. Okay, why a person is sick, that is important. But what is even more important is, what am I meant to do over here right now? What am I meant to do over here? It's interesting that in all the reasons that Bhishma will try to say, okay, why are you suffering? He does not mention karma even once. He does not mention, oh, it must be because of some past karma of yours. Now we can say that, oh, they are pure devotees and there's no karma over there. That is true at one level. But even that is not the reason that Bhishma Pitama says. Oh, you are a pure devotee. He doesn't even say that. So, he will use the word pure devotee a little later and I'll talk about that probably in tomorrow's class. But the point over here is something very significant to understand. What is the difference between focusing on others' karma and our dharma? That is, that when there is suffering, to whatever extent we can, we should try to understand the cause. But we also have limitations in how much we can understand the cause. See, some people may have genetic predisposition towards some things. Some people may have some heart problems, some kidney problems, some this problem, that problem, because of some genetics. Now, we can't blame them for having been born in that family. Isn't it? Okay, that's just where you are right now. Now, we could say that that is because of your past karma, you were born in such a family. But, in some way, some cases, or in many cases, trying to focus on the cause is not very helpful. Because it's very difficult to precisely find out the cause. And even if you precisely found out the cause, okay, I must have done some past karma. How does that help me to deal with it right now? Isn't it? Because ultimately I have to decide what am I to do right now over here. So there are many different metaphors to try to understand the nature of the world. So different metaphors, analogies, examples, different metaphors convey different things. So I'll just talk about 3-4 metaphors and then I'll focus on one particular metaphor. So one metaphor is that this word is like a dream. Jiva jago, Gaura Chandra bole. So the dream metaphor conveys, see every metaphor, so we look at what is the metaphor and what is the purpose of the metaphor, or what is the emphasis, what is the focus of the metaphor. So the focus of the metaphor is that we need to wake up. Wake up primarily through sound. The point is that we need to do something. See, every metaphor is imperfect. See, if we are dreaming, if you see in our dreams, generally we are not the controllers. We are watching something happening, we try to do something, and then something else goes wrong, and this happens, that happens. It's not that everything is, even though we may sometimes use the word, it worked like a dream. That means it worked wonderfully, that's how we use the word. But actually, even in our dreams, it's not that everything works wonderfully. So the point is, in our dream, we don't really have the choice to do particular activities. We just do certain things, and certain things happen to us. So the point of the metaphor of the dream is not that this world is just a dream and is to be devalued. Our philosophy is the world is real. But the point is that we need to wake up from the dream and therefore expose yourself to spiritual sound. That's the purpose of the metaphor. The purpose of the metaphor is not to just devalue the world and dismiss the world. Once Prabhupada, he was talking about his world is just like a dream. It's Maya, it's illusion. And one of his disciples, he had heard this philosophy before. And he was in the temple and he said, this wall is there. This wall is just an illusion. This wall is just a dream. And he walked right into the wall. Bang! He hit his head. And he went and he told Swamiji, you said this world is like a dream, but I got a real bump on my head now. So Prabhupada said, I said, it is like a dream, not a dream. That the world is real. But the point is that the focus of the dream is wake up, just as alarm sound wakes us up. So the hearing of the spiritual wisdom, it wakes us up. Hearing of the Hare Krishna mantra, it wakes us up. Now another metaphor is that this world is like a reflection. Urdhva mula madha shakam. If you consider this world to be like a reflection, then what it means is, don't get caught in the reflection, shift your vision to the reality. So, shift vision to reality. So, whatever we are attracted to in the reflection, we are attracted to beautiful things. We don't say that all the beauty of this world is false. What we say is that the beauty of this world is a reflection. And there is something far, far more beautiful, and that is the beautiful form of Krishna. So, shift from the reflection to the reality. Each metaphor has a particular purpose. Now, if we consider this world is like a prison. It's a durga, it's a fort. Now, if we consider the prison metaphor, if it's a jail, then what is the point of the metaphor? That improve your behavior. That we have to make better choices. So each of these has a slightly different emphasis. All of them involve some change, but if we consider each of these, the emphasis is different. Like a dream, the focus is on the state of consciousness. Like being in a dream is not an immoral thing. You have to change your state of consciousness. If we consider reflection, it's more like intellectual awareness. Be intelligent enough, don't be caught in the dream. But if you consider prison metaphor, it is like moral change. That you have been doing bad things, stop doing bad things. Now, do better things. Now, another metaphor that is there, which is what I would like to focus on, is the hospital metaphor. Often, there are many other metaphors, which I am not going to go into all of them. In the hospital metaphor, often it is said that this world that we are all suffering from, bhavaroga. Bhavaroga is the disease of material existence. And what is the essence of the disease? That it is our desires that are diseased. That our desires are misdirected. So when we talk of the hospital metaphor, the focus is treatment. If somebody is sick in the hospital, you are a terrible person that you got admitted to the hospital. No, we don't blame them for their moral conduct. The treatment for what? To cure desires. So it is primarily a disease of desires. And if you consider, this is the metaphor where the idea is that there is a higher plan. If you see in all the other three metaphors, it is largely we have to make the effort. You are sleeping, you wake up. You are looking at the reflection, turn towards the reality. You are in the prison, reform yourself. But if we consider the hospital metaphor, yes, we have to endeavor. We have to endeavor to take the medicine. We have to endeavor to avoid taking the forbidden foods. But there is a higher plan to help us become better. And through what we do, there is a higher plan that is acting. Or rather, through what we do, we become a better part of that higher plan. And so, among all these metaphors, the metaphor that harmonizes most with a merciful God is the metaphor of a hospital. Now, when we use the metaphor of a prison, the obvious question comes up, okay, what did I do to land up in a prison? And you say, oh, you did some past karma in the past life. I don't remember it. So, it just seems unfair. If we are fired from our company, and you say, yeah, why were you fired? You don't have a right to know that. That will seem very arbitrary and brutal. So, if we focus on the other metaphors, that doesn't really give a picture of a loving God. So the idea is, in a hospital, why you got into the hospital, it's important. But what is most important is, now you take the treatment. Now you take the treatment and you will be cured. You will be cured. Because it's not just you struggling to figure it out. There is a competent doctor out there, and the doctor is ready to guide you. And that doctor is Krishna. So I will build on this theme tomorrow, but I will set the scene for that with one particular image, which we will explore tomorrow. See, if we are suffering, if we are in a hospital, if we are sick in hospital, then at that time, there are two things which are a concern for us. What is the cause of the disease, and what is the cure for the disease? So the cause could be known, or the cause could be unknown. Now the cure could be known, or the cure could be unknown. And based on this, we could have 4 quadrants, where the cause is known but the cure is unknown, where both are unknown. The cause is unknown but the cure is known, and where both the cause and the cure are known. So now among these 4, which is the best situation to be in? 4th, yes. So if I know, okay, this is what caused my disease and this is what will cure the disease. If I come to know that, okay, I went out for a walk in the morning and it was quite cold, that's why I got cough now. That's why I got a running nose. Okay, then in future, I won't go out like that. So I know the cause, then I can act accordingly and I can cure myself. This is the best situation. And we all would like to be in this situation. But sometimes it's not possible. So the idea is, in some ways, the cause of suffering is, we could say, karma. We did something in the past. We can generically say that our actions are responsible. But then what action was responsible? Why did I do that action? What was going on at that time? So sometimes we can say that's not known to us. Many times that's not known to us. So we could say, broadly speaking, the cause is karma. And the cure is dharma. Now dharma culminates in, supreme dharma is bhakti. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. So I'll talk about that dharma culminating bhakti tomorrow. But the idea is that there is something I did because of which I am suffering right now. So karma I am using simply in the generic sense that something I did because of which I am suffering right now. And dharma refers to there is something which I can do right now. So dharma is the careful choice of action right now. There is something I can do right now by which I can help in curing the suffering. So which is the worst situation to be in this among these four? Yeah, both are unknown. We don't know why we are suffering. Like in a hospital, there are some patients, they are undiagnosed and they are being untreated. They're terrible. They're suffering and they are going to keep suffering. So that's a terrible situation to be in. Now, unfortunately, there are many cases. There are many diseases that are known, but the diseases have no cures. So we know this virus caused this particular disease to you, or this is the cancer you have got, but we have no treatment. So kindly die now. It's not like that. They don't say that. But the point is, it's sometimes, unfortunately, we could be in the quadrant 1 with respect to medical cases. That sometimes there's just no cure for some things. Now, for us, if we fixate too much on the cause of suffering, we may or may not know the cause of suffering. We can't always know the cause of suffering because we are finite beings. But what we can know is the cure for the suffering. The cure is, let me choose to do that which will bring me closer to Krishna, which will bring me closer to Dharma, closer to Krishna. Vipra Dharma Achyutashrayaha. So Vipras are the Brahmanas. They tell us about Dharma, and Dharma culminates in Achyuta, who is Dharmakrut Dharmagup, as the Vishwashastra Nam says. He is the giver of Dharma, he is the protector of Dharma, he is the ultimate purpose of Dharma. So, we want to keep ourselves in one of these two quadrants. Best is if we can be in the fourth quadrant. We understand the cause and we understand the cure. But sometimes we cannot understand the cause. Still, we can work on the cure. In medicine, these are called as idiopathic diseases. Idiopathic. Now, idio, that is not related with the word idiot. It has got nothing to do with it. But sometimes it is that doctors don't know what is the cause of a disease. But we know, you take this treatment, this will how it will. Some forms of arthritis are there. Some forms of cancer are there. Now, what exactly caused the cancer, we don't know. But, we have different treatments, and some of those treatments do work. And many cancers are now curable, or at least manageable. So, sometimes we don't know what exactly caused the cancer, but it is there now. Let's deal with it. So, for us, when we come to the point of suffering in life, what caused the suffering? We can use our intelligence to understand it, but sometimes we can't figure it out. And if we can't figure it out, don't get discouraged, don't get fixated, don't get obsessed. Why is this happening to me? Okay, it has happened. Now what can I do about it? What can I do about it is that I can play my part in serving Krishna in this situation. So that is what Yudhishthira Maharaj will be told by Bhishma, Pitamaha, that you are in this situation and you don't know why this happened to you. The cause is not known, but the Lord is here and the Lord is telling you, take up the kingship. So take that. Anatha pahi natha prabho. That people are anatha now, they are orphans and they need you as their protector. So, coming to terms with what is happening in our life. That sometimes why some things happen, we just can't figure it out. But even if we can't figure it out, that does not mean that we can't serve Krishna. So, that idea that the pain that is there in life, I'll conclude with one statement, if you forget it. So, in Krishna's, we have to understand Krishna's plan. So, in Krishna's plan, there are two things which are true. Pain has a purpose. If we are going through pain, pain has a purpose. We are going through that pain, and that pain is, it has some reason why it came into us, and it is taking us somewhere. Pain has a purpose. At the same time, pain is not the purpose. Krishna's purpose is not to cause pain to us. In the hospital, there will be pain. But the purpose of the hospital is not to cause pain to the patient. Now, some things that in the hospital that are done, a surgery that is done, a bitter medication that is given, that may also cause pain. But the pain has a purpose. Pain is not the purpose. And this understanding that Krishna is not causing the pain to me. Krishna is through the pain taking me to a better place. Krishna is through the pain helping me to become a better person. That we will try to understand more in tomorrow's session. How exactly to figure it out. How exactly to not figure out the cause of the pain, but what is our dharma? What should I do when I am going through painful situations which I can't make sense of? That we'll try to figure out in tomorrow's session. So I'll summarize what we discussed. Broadly, 3 points. Our broad topic was pain and God's plan. Pain, how to make sense of pain in Krishna's plan. So I generally take a framework called CHIT whenever I give Bhagavatam classes. C-I-T, C is context, I is insight, and T is takeaway. So we want to expand our consciousness. Chit also means consciousness. So in the context, I talk about 3 things. I talked about first about the Bhishma and Parikshit parallel. That Parikshit Maharaj also is facing death, and for him Krishna comes as Bhagavatam, and for Bhishma Krishna is standing in front of him. So both are face death in Krishna consciousness. That is the consistent theme. And then we discussed the similarity in the situations of Parikshit Maharaj, Bhishma and Yudhishthir. All of them, what are the similarity? That all of them, if we say there's a mistake, there's a small mistake and severe suffering. So it seems so unfair, so unbearably unfair that such good people had to go through such terrible things. The key insight we discussed was the difference between cause and purpose. So we quoted Vakya Bheda Vimohita, that quite often when we go through life, the cause is unknown and the cause is also unknowable. Sometimes we just can't know why something is happening in my life. And we discussed that, okay, when there is suffering, to make sense of suffering, what are the metaphors we could use? So metaphors for the world. We discussed 4 metaphors and each of them has a different emphasis. So what are the 4 metaphors? It's like a dream. So that is where the focus there isn't to change the state of consciousness and wake up. So the focus is the state of consciousness needs to be changed. Then the other metaphor was reflection. That if somebody is caught in the reflection, the idea is become more intelligent. Don't be so foolish. So it is like intellectual sharpness. That become more sharp, know that this is a reflection. Then the other was prison. That is, the focus is moral reform. Become a better person. Change your behavior. And if we talk about last was hospital. Hospital is that we need to higher plan, participate in the higher plan that is there to treat you. So among these, God's mercifulness that is most easily to pursue in the idea that there is a hospital. And now in the hospital metaphor, the key takeaway we discussed was based on this metaphor that there is this particular diagram, that there is a cause of suffering if somebody is sick in hospital. So the cause of suffering and the cure for suffering. So best is if we know both, worst is if we know neither. Now sometimes we just can't know the cause. But even if we don't know the cause, we can try to focus on the cure. So broadly speaking, the cause is karma. Karma in the sense that something I did. And the cure is dharma. In the sense that something I can do. So ultimately, if I try to act in the mood of service to Krishna, then I can face suffering. And the point we made is that in that pain has a purpose. That when we are going through a pain, it is not random. It is not arbitrary. It is not that God is cruel. But pain is not the purpose. That means it is not that Krishna gets some joy in causing pain to us. It is not that the purpose of the hospital is to subject the patients to pain. The whole hospital's purpose, pain is there. And yes, there are some devices in the hospital which will cause further pain also. But the whole purpose is to help us come out of pain. So, we'll discuss in tomorrow's session about how to understand what is the higher plan and how to participate in that higher plan so that we can grow in our life through the pain that we may be subjected to. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments?
Any questions? Anyone would like to ask any questions? Okay, if there is no one... Hariban.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much. This is from yesterday's class. So you spoke about might and virtue, and you gave example of the Pandavas. So I was just asking, the Pandavas could actually, what do you say? They could regain their lost glory and the kingdom and all, because yeah, of course that they utilize those difficult times in the best way, and so that's why they could actually hop back. But it is not so for everyone, because they had all the resources. They were very powerful. They had Krishna on their side, and they were blessed actually, even though they were in so much of difficulties. So for us, it doesn't happen always, no? So because the resources are not available always to again come back to the same glorious situation. So some things are irreversible in our lives.
Yeah, it's true.
So that's why.
So when we go through difficulties, the Pandavas also went through difficulties, but they had resources, they were blessed, and they were able to fix the situation. They lost the kingdom, they got the kingdom back. But sometimes we don't have so many resources, and sometimes some opportunities are just lost forever. So how do we deal with it? Yes, it is, see, there are principles and there are specifics. So the specifics will be different for different individuals. If we see, there is a principle that is consistent. In the same Ramayana which describes, say, how, or in the same Mahabharata which describes how Arjuna was so victorious, it also describes how Abhimanyu was killed. The same Ramayana which describes how Hanuman was so glorious, single-handedly going into Lanka and devastating Lanka, it also describes how Jatayu was martyred. So the point is that at the material level, not everybody will have success. Not everybody will have glory of the same degree, even when they have glory. So there is a principle which is universal. The principle is universal, that is, that those who turn toward Krishna, those who serve Krishna will be protected. Now the specifics, they are variable. They are not universal, they are variable. Now one time, one devotee told Prabhupada that Bhaktivinoda Thakur preached in Bengal, Bhaktivedanta Thakur preached in India, you preached all over the world. Therefore, you are greater than all of them. And Prabhupada became very grave. He said, never think like this. He said, it is by their mercy that I have been able to achieve whatever I have achieved. So, what does this mean? That in Krishna's plan, each Acharya had a particular role. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a particular role, Bhaktivedanta Thakur had a particular role. And they did what their role was. Now, it is possible that for some Acharyas, their role was greater. Prabhupada never claimed that because his role was greater, now we can certainly respect him, he is our founder Acharya, we should respect him. But still, it is not that we should consider that that other Acharyas are smaller. So the idea is within Krishna's plan, so that if I am here in this world and Krishna is above me, so when I connect with Krishna, when I try to connect with Krishna, then Krishna also blesses me. When we take shelter of Krishna, Krishna blesses us. But when Krishna blesses us, that blessing, exactly how it will work out. For one person, that blessing means that their kshetra may be this much. That means, so one devotee preaches and they preach and then 5-10 people by their preaching become devotees. For some other devotee, they connect with Krishna and Krishna blesses them. And through Krishna's blessing, the whole world becomes devoted. Their kshetra may be much bigger. So when the kshetra is bigger, when I want to put this, the kshetra becomes bigger for this devotee, that does not necessarily mean that devotee is a better devotee than another devotee. What it means is that Krishna has a particular plan. So generally, Krishna works through our karma. What does Krishna work through our karma mean? That see, Bhima was physically very powerful. And Krishna engaged him in mace fighting. Arjuna was not that physically powerful. He was also physically powerful, no doubt, but not as powerful as Bhima. So then he was engaged in archery fighting. So now, is it possible that Krishna could have made Arjuna as great a mace fighter as Bhima was? Krishna could have done that. But generally, Krishna works through our karma. So it is that somebody is, say, 4.5 feet tall. It is, and they are very timid. When they become devotees, it's not that they are going to become 6 feet tall. Isn't it? They'll still remain 4.5 feet, but their confidence will increase. Prabhupada was relatively not a very tall person. Prabhupada was a small person, but he had a big vision and a big impact. So there are certain things which may not change. So that's why when we try to evaluate our life, we cannot be evaluating it solely in terms of the worldly situations that we are facing. Now, of course, the worldly situations matter. We want to serve Krishna in this world. So we would like to, in our home, we would like to have the best temple. Maybe we would like to have a large home so that we can have a large temple and we can have many guests we can invite. If we are a part of a community, we are leading a community, we would like to have a grand temple for our community. We would like to do great things for Krishna. And that having that desire is wonderful. At the same time, we are servants. We are sevak. That's why our desire cannot or should not become, we should have a desire to want to do the best for Krishna, to be the best for Krishna, to offer the greatest to Krishna. So our desire should increase, but at the same time, the desire should not become a demand. And certainly, it should not become an ultimatum. Ultimatum is Krishna, if you don't do this, I'll stop chanting. I'll stop practicing bhakti. No. So, Krishna, the kshetra that we have, that will be determined by Krishna. Now, we could have said that if, say, Srila Prabhupada had in 1920s only gone to America, or from 1920s or 1930s when he got initiated, from that time he had got success in Azam preaching. Maybe his preaching could have been much more. If Prabhupada achieved so much in 10 years, 10, 11 years, 12 years, how much more could he have achieved before that? Well, maybe that is true, or maybe it is that Krishna had a plan that through all that Prabhupada was going through, the last 12 years became much more impactful because of that. So, ultimately, at the material level, how things are going to work, that is not in our control. So, we accept, okay, if I have small resources, then I will do the best with the small resources I have. If some opportunities, some doors have been closed, some opportunities are lost forever, I'll accept that those opportunities are lost. But I will never lose the opportunity I have to turn to Krishna right now. So that's why it's a big subject, how the material and the spiritual relate. And tomorrow I'll talk a little bit more about that. That just because we are spiritually devoted does not necessarily mean every devotee will be materially influential. So spiritual devotion and you could say material influence, the relationship between them, we'll talk more tomorrow. Okay. But does it answer your question broadly? Thank you. One last. Yes, Prabhu.
One more question.
Yes, please.
I just wanted to add to the same context. Actually, the same Arjuna, when he was there later after this Mahabharata, in the same first canto of Bhagavatam, he was easily defeated by another ordinary, people who are in the forest. So Arjuna at that time, he was feeling the same feeling that actually that it was all because of Krishna. Now Krishna does not want to have those empowerment. So he accepted that one. And also we have a misconception of this, misunderstanding of this verse, Ananya Chintayantamam, that Krishna protects his devotees. So sometimes we get into confusion, why Krishna did not protect me? So this, just wanted to add to that one context.
Okay, yeah. So, now if we consider Krishna protects his devotees, Ananyashchintayanto mam, those verses. Now, what does that mean? So see, when Krishna protects, yes, that principle is true. But how and when? That is variable. The principle that Krishna protects is universal. So even if you consider Srila Prabhupada's life, there are so many things that Prabhupada started which didn't work out. Prabhupada at one time started a political party in America. He called it In God We Trust. So that was, and he said that one advantage of being a politician is that you can freely criticize everyone. So Prabhupada encouraged devotees to take. In fact, one devotee told him that you can become the next president of America. So now, Prabhupada initially was very enthusiastic, but then when he came to know about how much funding is required to promote a candidate for elections, it's not just that you go and give talks, there's so much funding required. Prabhupada decided that we would rather use the Lakshmi we have for more direct Krishna consciousness. So this devotee who had been very encouraged by Prabhupada, he met Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada, are you no longer enthusiastic about the political party? So Prabhupada said, I am very enthusiastic, just don't ask me for any money. So the point is that sometimes the resources were limited even for Prabhupada. So it is that Krishna will protect, but exactly how, where? So how and when Krishna will protect, that is his plan. And that's why we cannot expect or insist that in this particular way I will be protected. So we could say that Krishna protects our spiritual side and not our material side. It's not that simple. It's not that Krishna is unconcerned about our material side, but even our material side, how and when Krishna will protect, that is something which is up to him. So recognizing that that Krishna's plan is, or rather, we can say that Krishna's protection often involves an elevation of our conception of protection. I think protection means this should happen, but from Krishna's perspective, protection means this is what will happen. So sometimes it's like we are very attached to our conception of what protection means. So if I am giving a class and say sometimes people ask difficult questions and Krishna protects means that at that time Krishna gives me the intelligence by which I answer questions. So yoga kshemam vahamyaham. That what you carry, I preserve. What you lack, I provide. So even if I don't know particular answers, then I just get the intelligence and I give the answers at that time. But it may happen sometimes that somebody asks a question, I'm stumped. I just don't know the answer. Now it can be a little embarrassing. It can be humiliating also for a speaker at that time, depending on how you take it. But it's certainly not a pleasant thing if you don't know the answer. So now if the thing comes to my mind at a particular time, then does that mean Krishna is not protecting me? Maybe. That's one way of looking at it. But another way is that it could be that maybe Krishna is seeing that I am becoming proud of my knowledge. And Krishna is reminding me, or rather Krishna is protecting me from that pride by not giving me that answer. So that is what Keshav Kashmiri is told by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he goes and begs to Saraswati, you had told me that whenever I speak, you will manifest on my tongue. So when I was in front of this Nimai, why did you not manifest? So Saraswati appears and tells him that Nimai, he is actually the Lord of my Lord. My Lord is Brahma and he is the Lord of Brahma. And he says, actually, I blessed you. Although I did not appear as words before you, but I blessed you, so that you will be able to understand the purpose of all knowledge. The purpose of all knowledge is Vedaisya Sarvair Ahameva Vedyo. So in that sense, Krishna's protection also involves revising our readiness to revise our conception of protection. Okay. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki,
Jai.
Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki,
Jai.
Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, bringing up this hospital metaphor. It is very much related to all of us. So just I had one question I thought of asking, but these questions can be answered in the next session. Recently I had these issues, and then when we are talking about the cause and the purpose. So when we are undergoing the pain, we never thought of the cause and we never thought of the purpose also. We are wholly engrossed in the pain. So how do we focus our thing to either to the purpose or to the cause? So that can be answered later, not now. It's already late now.
So you want me to answer now? Or
No, in the next session.
Okay, next
session.
session.
Hare Krishna.
So again some exercise for me to think about.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So as Prabhuji has explained, this particular Srimad Bhagavatam enlightenment will continue tomorrow, one more session, and then this Mahabharat session will continue by today evening. That will be the last session. So requesting the devotees, please kindly don't miss and attend these classes. Thank you so much. And today the Bhoga to the Lordship, it was offered by myself, Kirtanes Krishnadas, and Jagdish Radhika Devyasi, and Sri Radha Krishna. Haribol for the pleasure. Hare Krishna. So we're requesting the devotees, please stay in this hall, honoring the Mahabharat. tomorrow. Friday evening.